It has been over a decade since Infiniti has fully redesigned its QX80 model, the flagship of the Infiniti brand. In fact, the current QX80 is so old, it came out as a 2011 model year. It wasn't even called the QX80 back then, it was called the QX56. Infiniti went through a whole name change scheme a number of years back, and that's how old the current QX80 is, that it actually dates back to before that. This is the all-new 2025 QX80. This is the third generation, all new, truly all new, and this thing is going to be going toe-to-toe against other luxury full-size SUVs like the Lexus LX600, the Cadillac Escalade, the Lincoln Navigator, and the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. So is it up to the task? That is what we are going to find out on this first drive here in Napa, California. We're going to start with the exterior, where I think you can clearly tell that this is a QX80. They've retained a lot of the same shape and overall design language, but they have evolved it as well. We've got a very new grille here, a lot of intricate stuff going on here. We've got kind of these vertical slats, then we have this upper part that changes a little bit. You can see we have these kind of piano key headlights. They do a nice lighting animation when you go and lock it and unlock it, but the actual headlight is down here, kind of that split headlight design that almost everybody has been doing. We've got this new gray color. I think it looks pretty nice, although I was kind of looking forward to seeing the QX80 in a different color, because this is the same color they displayed at the launch. 20-inch wheels are going to come standard on this car, but these are the larger 22-inch wheels. We also have the contrast black roof, which I think looks really nice. They've made this vehicle a lot wider than before. It's actually about the same wheelbase, and it is a little bit longer overall as well from the outgoing QX80, but the width is really what you're going to see on this car that makes it look a lot more imposing. Just like the old one, we don't have any power folding running boards. We just have kind of a fixed running board down here, but we do have some pop-out door handles. That is new. We did not used to have that. This is the top autograph trim. It's the only one that we've been able to film on this drive. This is the top trim level, so it does let you know that there on the side. And then here at the back, we've got, again, a very different taillight bar than the old one. We've got a connected taillight bar with these kind of piano key dividers. We've got Infiniti spelled out. Lexus is doing the very same thing. On all of their models, it says Lexus spelled out instead of having an Infiniti logo. And down here, it says QX80 with this little badge that lets you know you have four-wheel drive. From far away, it kind of looks like a Japanese, like a kanji letter, which I think is kind of cool. Overall, I thought the QX80 has always been kind of a nice looking vehicle, but this one is still a major improvement. And now that we've checked out the exterior of the new QX80, let's hop inside, where I think the biggest improvement to the QX80 has been made here on the inside. The outgoing model, as I mentioned earlier, just felt so old, but this new one is perfectly modern. We've got these available red leather seats. We've got a black and red leather theme here. We've got some nice patterning here. We've got some speakers here in the headrests. These are from Klipsch. Klipsch is going to be the speaker for all of the QX80 trims. You get 14 speakers on the lower trims, 24 speakers on this top trim, the autograph. So we do have speakers everywhere. Really nice material. I'm loving these like kind of line streaks. They remind me of something that Audi did a number of years ago. And this interior space looks nothing like the outgoing QX80, which again, just felt so old. We've got all new screens here. We've got dual 14.3-inch displays. Now, this is going to be a very similar layout to what you'll find on a lot of Infiniti Nissan products. You can change the layout of what this screen looks like, so you can have a really big Google map. We do have Google built in here. You can see here's our Google map system right here as well. So you can change this to make the middle screen a little bit more full, or you can just have a smaller screen here in the middle. We've got a nice two-spoke steering wheel that feels really nice to hold in hand. We do have some paddle shifters as well. We have this new controller over here. You can actually control what's here on the gauge cluster, or you can actually use that to control this lower screen as well. Although it is a touch screen, we do have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto as well as built-in Google, so you can ask it all of your questions. So pretty much all of the best technology that you would ever need to use. We also have a separate 9-inch screen that we can use to control our heated and ventilated and massage seats down here as well. So I like that that's separate, so you never have to leave your map or leave your music, whatever. It's always down here, ready for you to access. You can even control the rear climate as well. Funny enough, you can actually control the heated and ventilated rear seats here, and then you can lock it. So if you want to mess with your passengers and turn their heated seat on in the middle of the summer and make them really hot and then lock it so they can't change it, that will make for an interesting little road trip game. We've also got a rear view camera, view mirror, something that I really love, and I'm seeing a lot more of these on these 3-row SUVs, which is great. When you have kids in the back blocking your view, you can just go ahead and turn that on. We also have a selfie camera up here that you can go ahead and take a selfie with. And speaking of cameras, we do have a really nice 360-degree camera system with really high resolution. We also have this really nice like invisible hood view. Let me go ahead and put it into drive for a second here, so that we can get the invisible hood view. So this helps you kind of see through the hood, and you can actually now expand that. So now it takes up both of the screens. This is great for parking or navigating through a neighborhood that you don't want to hit kids or their skateboards or baseballs or anything else that might be an obstacle to you. So really good technology there. We've got a little bit of storage underneath the console here. We've got our wireless charger and USB ports in here, cup holders in here. We also have a cool box. This gets your drinks freezing cold, which is really nice. We also have a panoramic roof as well. So pretty much all of the modern functions are now here on the QX80. But it's not just the front seat where the QX80 impresses. This is one of, if not the nicest back seats that you can get on a full-size SUV. It's right up there with the Lincoln Navigator in that regard. The only thing it's missing is a infotainment system. There's no like screens that you can get on the back of the seat. Infiniti is done with those, they say. Most of their customers already have iPads. So aside from that, you can get these captain's chairs. You can option to get a bench seat, not on this top autograph trim, but on other trims you can get a bench seat. But these captain chairs are really nice. They are heated, ventilated, and they massage you in the second row. So the kids actually can get massaging seats here in the center row. They do have their own climate controls down here and USB-C ports as well. These buttons look like they would on any other Infiniti SUV. They actually look identical to what you would get on a QX60 and honestly the Pathfinder as well. One thing that those two vehicles have that this doesn't are side sunshades. I don't know why Infiniti did not put those on their top model. That's a little bit weird, but we do have a nice center console. We've got our cup holders here, a little bit of storage in here as well. And then this touch screen is going to be how you're going to control the seat adjustments. You can do some of that here with the heating and ventilation, but you can turn on the massage seats here on this little touchscreen, which is quite nice. We also have biometric cooling, so it can use like sensors in the roof to cool passengers down here about 50% quicker than a normal car. So that is something to consider if you've got, babies and valuable children back here. These seats are fully powered, so we're going to go ahead and just hit this button right here. It takes a little bit. It's definitely not the fastest process in the world, but after that, you don't have to do any manual labor. It's just going to tilt the seat forward as far as it will go. Pretty darn good, if I do say so myself, in terms of how easy it is to get into the third row here. The third row is going to be bigger than before. Let's go ahead and push the button and bring the seat back. So I have a decent amount of room. I would need to raise up this headrest just a little bit. You can actually control the seat from here as well. We actually have a heated third row, which is kind of nice. We've got cup holders, USB-C ports as well. So we've got really nice legroom up here. Headroom isn't as good, but the legroom is definitely pretty fair. This seat is definitely not as far forward as it can go. We've got more legroom in pretty much all dimensions. I believe the second row is technically a little bit smaller than the old QX80, but you can slide the seats and everything, so the room in here is really good. And last but not least, you're probably wondering about cargo space, because the QX80 is definitely big by Infiniti standards, but how does it stack up against the really big guys, the Cadillac Escalade, you know, the Lincoln Navigator and such? So storage space is up. We now have 22 cubic feet of storage behind this third row. That is up from just 16 cubes in the outgoing QX80. We have power seat controls for every row here, so you can go ahead and tip down the second row like so. You can go ahead and tip down the third row like so. One touch, you don't have to hold the button. As you can see, Infiniti has still not fixed the fact that these seats take quite a little bit to fold down. That is something that General Motors does better than any other company. You push those buttons, that third row goes really fast down. Now, the advantage here is that we do have power up and down on both rows, so you can actually go ahead and bring that second row back up. That is something that you currently cannot do on the Cadillac Escalade. Storage space behind that second row is up from 49 cubic feet to 59 cubic feet, and overall storage is now up from 95 cubic feet to 101 cubic feet. So bigger than the old QX80, way bigger than something like the Lexus LX600, still a little bit smaller than something like the Lincoln Navigator or the Cadillac Escalade, especially the ESV and Navigator L versions of those vehicles. All right, now let's get out on the road in the new 2025 Infiniti QX80. This has been a long time coming. The outgoing QX80 has been on the market for quite a long time. In fact, it's actually been on the market longer than you think, because the QX56, before it got a name change, was the outgoing QX80. So this new one, lots to talk about here, including what's under the hood. The 5.6 liter V8 engine has finally been retired. It's still being used in the Nissan Armada until that gets a replacement. Look at everything we've seen so far in the QX80, but bring it down a notch, and that's probably what the next Armada is going to be. The engine here is new-ish. It's a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. And although the 3.5 liter displacement is new, the whole engine really isn't. It's basically a bored and stroked version of what's in the Nissan Z and also what's in the Infiniti Q50 and formerly the Q60, which was only a 3 liter. But here it produces a little bit more power, 450 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. Both of those are excellent numbers, especially considering that this is the standard engine. There's no like less powerful version of it. So when you compare that to something like GM's 6.2 liter V8, which only has 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet, those are really good numbers. And compared to the outgoing V8, those are increases of 50 horsepower and 103 pound-feet. So no matter which way you slice it, this new engine is definitely better than the V8 it replaces. I know some people will complain that the V6 maybe doesn't sound as good as the V8, but a little bit of fake engine pumping in there now, but it's a pretty nice throaty noise, similar to what it makes in the Nissan Z. That whoa, that wail of that twin turbo V6. I definitely don't think it sounds bad. It's not a V8 rumble. It's never going to replace like that version of an engine note, but it does sound pretty good. Ditto, I also am loving this new 9-speed automatic. I've really liked this in all of the Nissan and Infiniti products that it has been in. It's a little bit smoother and a little bit smarter than the old 7-speed automatic that used to be in the QX80. So nice improvement there. You can send the power out to rear-wheel drive or optional all-wheel drive. If you step all the way up to this top trim that we're driving, all-wheel drive does come standard, but you can still get a QX80 with rear-wheel drive. The fuel economy is one area where there is some improvement. You're going to be getting about 4 mpg better, I believe, in the city with this new V6 engine, but the highway fuel economy actually hasn't changed at all. I believe you're going to be getting about 20 mpg on the highway with the rear-wheel drive version, and that drops to like 19 mpg when you get the 4-wheel drive. That's like identical to the outgoing QX80. I'm guessing, like, even though this V6 is probably a little bit more fuel efficient when you're moving at that speed and you have this low level of aerodynamics, because this is a very large vehicle, there's just a certain point where it doesn't matter how much smaller your engine's going to be, it's still just going to be thirsty. So if you're doing a lot of city driving, you are going to notice probably significantly better fuel economy in the QX80. If you do a lot of highway driving, it's going to be pretty identical to the old V8. But remember, smaller displacement and you're getting more power. So it really shouldn't be too much of a negative that the fuel economy hasn't improved that much, because they have improved the power by quite a lot. And two other things I should talk about with the new QX80 is we now have electronic power steering rather than hydraulic. Something else that people on the internet like to complain about, that electric power steering just doesn't capture the feel of the hydraulic, but I never liked the hydraulic steering in the QX80. I always felt it was too heavy for heaviness sake. It wasn't like particularly dynamic, didn't have particularly good steering feel. This new system, they have left in a lot of the weight, but I think the steering effort is just a little bit better, and I actually do think it is a little bit more direct. We've been driving around some winding roads here in Napa, and I think the body control of everything that they've done here with this new car, we do have the available air suspension. So the outgoing QX80 only had air suspension in the rear for self-leveling. This now has 4-corner air suspension. We also have the dynamic digital suspension, which can kind of adjust the body control, meaning that this does feel a little bit smaller than it actually is around these roads. It does shrink around you. That is something that the outgoing QX80 most certainly did not do. It felt its size no matter what type of road you were on. This one does feel a little bit smaller. It feels a little bit more dynamic. The body control is significantly better. They've really done a number on how well this new QX80 drives compared to the outgoing one. Is it as good as something like the Cadillac Escalade? I'd have to have more time in the vehicle to really get that, but I do think that it feels a little bit smaller than the Escalade. It does ride really well. Depending on whether you're doing city or highway driving, it's anywhere from 3 to 4 decibels quieter than the outgoing model. It is really bank vault quiet in here as well. Definitely on par with something like the Escalade or Navigator on that. And it is very comfortable as well with this dynamic air suspension. And I did definitely just want to mention this. Unfortunately, the highway route that we are taking right now is not available to use this feature, but the QX80 is available with Infiniti's new ProPilot Assist version 2.1. And that will allow you to drive hands-free on the highway. Right now we have it doing the lane keep, but it is telling me to still put my hands on the wheel. You will be able to take your hands off the wheel under certain highway circumstances. You can actually get that on the Luxe and Sensory trims, optional. It does come standard on the Autograph trim. So I believe that is a little bit closer to what Lincoln's doing, where they kind of give it to you on every trim level, but then you have to pay extra for it. Cadillac, I believe, only makes Super Cruise available on certain trims. And the system does work really well. Off camera, I was able to try it out a little bit. It works really well at keeping the vehicle in the lane. The only thing that it has some catching up to do to get to where Lincoln is with Blue Cruise and where Cadillac is with Super Cruise is that when you need to do a lane change, and it will suggest when you should move over to the left or move over to the right, you signal and then it tells you to put your hands back on, and then it will give you kind of a guided lane change, but it is not going to do it hands-free the way that Cadillac and Lincoln are going to be able to. So it is a really nice first effort that like the QX80 finally has some really modern safety features. And I do like that unlike Cadillac, you can have hands-free driving and you can have the assisted hands-on driving. Cadillac kind of gives you all or nothing there, but they do have some catching up to do in terms of making the lane changes hands-free as well, to really be on the advanced level that those two American brands are at. All right, so let's wrap up our time with the new 2025 Infiniti QX80 and talk about pricing. It has gone up significantly from last year's model, but you are getting a much more modern vehicle with a lot more power and a lot more tech. The starting price for the pure rear-wheel drive model is about $82,450, significantly more expensive than the current base model, which starts at $74,150. To step up to four-wheel drive, you're looking at about $3,000, so looking at about $85,000 $25,550 for the pure four-wheel drive. Stepping up to the Lux rear-wheel drive, you're looking at just under 90 grand or 92,000 if you want the Lux four-wheel drive. The Sensory trim, which comes with four-wheel drive as standard, is just over $100,000, which is territory that the QX80 has not entered before. So this is new territory for Infiniti. And then this Autograph that we've been driving is a full $110,595. That is the most expensive QX80 ever, because the outgoing model really only ever got to about $85,000, and then you could option it up to about 90. So six figures is new territory for Infiniti, but I do think they have done a nice enough job. The engine is really nice, so is the drivetrain. The transmission is really nice. I think the design looks great. The interior finally feels modern, like it belongs in the year 2024. You no longer feel like you're buying a 10-year-old car that just happens to be brand new with a warranty. Now, this is going to be the thing. The QX80 used to be the value in the luxury segment. You were buying a luxury branded full-size crossover for about the same price as a well-loaded Tahoe or Ford Expedition. Now you're spending truly Lincoln, Cadillac, and now Jeep money or even Lexus money for an Infiniti. Is that buyer ready to pay the premium for something with an Infiniti badge? I do not know the answer to that. All I can tell you is that the product does speak for itself, and time will tell if people are willing to spend that much on the new QX80, but it is a really nice car that deserves to now be treated competently in the full-size luxury space. I really hope you've enjoyed this first drive of the 2025 Infiniti QX80. For more videos like it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.